Hello and thank you for tuning in to Millennium Movies. Today I'm going to be talking the finale of Season 1 of Castle Rock as well as some Easter eggs at the end of the video, so stick around for that. So, overall, I think that Season 1 of Castle Rock was a success, but the ending of the season and this episode left me a little bit underwhelmed. I was a little bit disappointed, to be quite honest with you, but don't worry, I'm going to tell you why I feel that way, and it's not going to be all bad because there's a lot of things that I enjoyed in this episode, but I just think overall, from the narrative point of view, I didn't agree and I didn't like a lot of the things that happened by the end of the story, but you'll probably get an idea as to some of the reasons why. But let's just go ahead and hop right into it. If I'm not in chronological order either, forgive me. I might be all over the place. So let's get started with the very first thing that I wanted to talk about is the characters of season one, and that's I wanted to look at Ruth. I wanted to look at Alan. I wanted to look at Zemeckis, Officer Zemeckis, and I wanted to say that these three characters were by the end of the series they're all dead, but I think they all played a fantastic role. Zemeckis was a good man. He was a good, spirited young person who wanted to see real justice done in his community, and then he paid the price for that. And he obviously went on a shooting rampage and killed everyone, and he got himself killed as well. Alan died trying to protect the woman that he loved, who was the wife to Matthew Deaver, a very sinister and evil man who lost his way. And then Ruth, by the end of the story, she passes away 4 months roughly after Alan Pangborn dies. So these three characters, I just wanted to give them all a shout out because I enjoyed each of the actors' performances throughout the season, and they were all three really likable characters. Other than Alan letting Warden Lacey keep the kid locked up, other than that, he was a good man. So I liked all three of these characters. But moving on from that, we pick up from where we last left off with the kid and Molly talking about about his alternate universe and that he's from a different world than hers. And she goes to Henry after she talks down Ruth and from jumping off the bridge again, and she tells Henry basically the entire story that the kid told her, and that he has to help the kid go to the woods to get back to his world, to get to find one of the doors. And Henry doesn't believe her. Henry just wants to put him away. He wants the cops to deal with him. And Henry still hasn't learned. I mean, he didn't learn. These cops are not out to help him. They're not out to help the kid. They're doing is they're going to make assumptions. And the people of Castle Rock, honestly, they pissed me off throughout the entire season because these people were just like I said, full of assumptions with their shit-eating grins, and they bothered me. They bothered me throughout the entire series. The way they blamed things on Henry, and the way that they went through with trying to keep the kid locked up, even though he committed no crime whatsoever. There was no proof that he committed any crime. This woman right here, I forget her name, the replacement warden at Shawshank. My goodness, her and her puny rat of assistant. Fortunately, we didn't get to see him die, but we got to see her die in spectacular fashion after she saw the queen chess piece in her on her desk or in her room or her house, excuse me, and she goes to Molly saying that that Warden Lacey was right, that this kid is the devil, and then she can't speak. She's at a loss for words, and she walks into the street and she gets run the hell over by this huge bus carrying a bunch of inmates. Ironic, isn't it, that she was in charge of the inmates and a bus carrying a bunch of them ran her over, and that was the cause of her death. I thought it was ironic and funny, and I'm so glad that she was killed off. I didn't like her character one single bit. She's another piece of the puzzle in Castle Rock of people that I did not like at all. But that's just me. So I'm getting a little intense there, a little passionate there for my dislike of the people of Castle Rock. But yeah, so I don't like the people. I didn't like the people of Castle Rock, and it felt like they won in the end of this. They won, and I didn't like that. It felt like the bad guys won, and justice didn't prevail. And I know that they left the episode open to believe that maybe the kid just made all this up. Maybe there is no alternate universe. But to me, that doesn't make sense. It all matches up too well. I mean, when you think back to Ruth on the bridge, and she's telling Molly that you've said all this stuff to me before in the episode Queen, where she's telling Wendell that they've had this conversation before. She's seen snippets of other timelines happening around her. And so I don't believe that's just her schizophrenia or her Alzheimer's or whatever you may think of Ruth. I don't think it has anything to do with that. And I think that she has uh, this type of sense for understanding that there's terrors, there's ripples through time in their universe that connect to other worlds where they're kind of like brushing up against each other. Molly is the same way, where she saw a vision of her death in an alternate timeline, and Henry as well. He has those memories of him as a kid and what happened to him that ultimately led up into him getting lost in the alternate universe, which is the kid's universe. So I don't believe for one second that the kid made all this up and that he's the devil or he's some type of demonic presence or this conduit of evil. I don't believe that whatsoever. I think that he is a victim, and I do believe him. So with the way this series ended, with him ultimately ending up back where he began, where he's still locked up under Shawshank Prison, uh, under the watch of from Warden Lacey to now adult Henry Deaver. Um, it was sad, man. It was disheartening. It felt like I stuck around with the kid and with the storyline that they brought onto us in episodes 7 through 10. The basically the back half of the season, and in the end, it doesn't pay off in a satisfactory way for me, because of course he ends up getting locked back in the cage, and Henry pays him a visit and feeds him the hamburger and the fries and says it's a Christmas present, a Merry Christmas. Christmas is tomorrow or something, and it's disappointing. And even the kid tells him, uh, at a certain point you'll start to forget, and you won't know which side of the bars you're on, because he said. Henry says someone's got to keep him down there, something like that, to watch over him. And he said, how did Warden Lacey end up? How did that turn out for him? So I think ultimately, in the end, from what we can deduce from this storyline, the way the series ended, is that the cycle is just going to continue. Henry has now replaced his father, and he's replaced Warden Lacey in the cycle of locking up somebody from an alternate dimension and keeping them locked in their universe, and just keeping them as a slave, as a prisoner. And if they ever get out again without being able to find their way back home, it's just going to cause death and despair for everybody around him and in and around him. So overall, I was really sad that the kid didn't find his way back. I mean, because man, you think about the last episode. I forget it. I think it was episode 9, where the kid was just he was living his best life, man. He was happy. He was very successful. He was doing his own thing, and then for him to get lost in this world, man, it's just sad. It disappoints me. I like Bill Skarsgård's performance, and really, like I said, screw everyone in Castle Rock, including Henry Deaver, for never learning his lesson, for never. He made a ton of mistakes throughout the season. He has no confidence in himself and what he wants to do up until the very end, when he finally makes a decision for himself that he's going to do something, and it's to keep the kid locked up. The same thing that Warden Lacey and his father did in the alternate universe. It's just disappointing. It's tragic, really. So I didn't like that. That's how the series ended up. Honestly, like I said, screw everybody in Castle Rock, with the exception of Molly, because she helps the people in despair and in need in both universes. We see her help out little Henry Deaver in the kid's universe, and we see her tell Henry to help the kid in her universe, of course. But it doesn't work out for the kid, and oh man, so much going on in the story that I could sit here and talk about it forever, but I'm not going to do that. One last thing that I know some people think that is going to assist them in their argument that the kid is a bad person or a bad entity, and that's the scene where both Henry and the kid are locked up in the jail cell, and a bunch of inmates come in, and the kid, you can see on his face, he decides to turn up the heat, like he turns it up, and he has the inmates fight the police officers, and they all kill each other, and that's how he grabs the keys and slides them into his jail cell and gets him and Henry out of there. puts the gun to Henry to try and take him into the woods so he can find his way back home. Again, I don't think he's going to go through all this trouble just to be a liar. That's like to an extreme of playing with your food or playing a game with people. I don't think that that's the kid's intentions at all. So overall, like I said, I was disappointed with the ending of the series, but overall, I think the entire season gets an A from me. But again, with the ending, it keeps it from an A plus because I didn't like the ending at all. But yeah, we can go ahead and move on from the storyline of episode 10 and move on to the Easter eggs, which there wasn't very many. The only two that I picked out were both from The Shining, and so the first being when Henry's a little kid and he's having that flashback scene of him trying to escape from his father. We see him retrace his steps in the snow so his father can't see where he was going to go next. And that's the exact same thing that little Danny Torrance does in Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of The Shining. Little Danny Torrance does the exact same thing. He retraces his footsteps to get away from his father to trick Jack and ultimately try and get the better of him. So that's what he does to Jack, and that's what Henry did to his father. Is they both did the exact same maneuver. Moving on from there, the last Easter egg, the biggest one, is a post credit scene where Molly is writing on this laptop of hers, and she's saying that she's going to head out east and to finish her novel called Overlook, which is of course a huge nod to the Overlook Hotel in The Shining as well, which is where Jack went crazy inside of, and that's the main location for that film. So yeah, these were the big Easter eggs of episode 10 of Castle Rock, and yeah, these were my overall thoughts on the season 1 finale. Really can't wait to see where season 2 heads to next, because I like this series. I like this anthology series. I just hope that for the future installments of seasons that the storylines can just wrap up a little bit better. It doesn't need to be still clouded in a little bit of mystery and guess. I know some people like that, especially in novels and book readers like that. But me, as a consumer of visual media, I would just like a definitive ending where we know for sure how the story ends. But other than that, guys, this has been it. So no more Castle Rock videos for at least for a while. So please tell me what you'd like to see me talk about on the channel in the future. I'd love to hear your feedback on these type of things. I would definitely take it and consider them. So until next time, guys, this has been Millennium Movies, and I will see you all very soon.